This is SFNet Presents In the Know, sponsored by Hilco Global.
Well, hello, and welcome to a very special edition of In the Know, the podcast that everybody loves for asset-based lending and business purposes. But today I'm joined with my co-host for the second annual U.S. Open Tennis Preview, Valerie Mason, killer lawyer by day and amazing tennis fan the rest of the time. And
Exactly.
I'm your host, Barry Bobrow, banker by day, but tennis fan the rest of the time. And we're gonna give you the preview for the U.S. Open, which is starting in a week, actually. And before we do, we're joined today by a very special guest. So why don't we have a few words from one of the great coaches in the tennis world?
What's happening, Barry and Valerie? BG Brad Gilbert here from Cincinnati. Now, hopefully you guys will be tuning in today and this week. We've got a loaded field. I'm working with Coco. She's playing tonight. Now, I hear you guys come to the Open all day, every day for the 2 weeks. Love hearing that. Now, you guys even stop by the Tennis Channel booth and you guys start to maybe rap to them and they wonder why that, you're not part of the team or you don't know them or they don't know you. Well, listen, love hearing how passionate you guys are. Barry the banker, Valerie the attorney, but the big difference is, Barry, I hear you are a massive Fed fan and Valerie is a massive Rafa fan. Now listen, these are two of the greatest pillars of the game. Now, are you going to adopt new players like Alcaraz, like Sinner? Maybe you go like a Tiafoe. Maybe you could even incorporate a Coco. This is the greatness of tennis, that you can still love them forever. And hopefully, fingers crossed, Rafa gets healthy. He comes back in 2024, and Fed is going to be around the game forever. But you know what? Keep spreading that love of tennis. Keep being so passionate about the game. It keeps you fighting fit. It keeps you mentally strong. And when you come out to the Open, make sure you drop by the ESPN desk. I'm usually out at the fountain set or over by the practice courts. You could say hello to me. I will definitely say hello back to you. And you know what? I'm thinking we are going to have an amazing 3 weeks of the Open because, ESPN, we do the Qualies week. So we're going to have an amazing 3 weeks. So make sure you drop by and say hi. Hopefully we get some incredible surprises. And you can still be massive Fed and Rafa fans, even though they're not there. But I still want to see you adopt a couple of new ones. This is Coach BG back at you from Cincinnati.
Brad's ready for the Open, and we're ready for the Open too. And just so everybody has the state, we're recording this before the draw is available, just so it'll be available to all of our massive audience of tennis fans out there. But Valerie, I'll start with this. I'm not even sure it matters what the draw is at this point. Let's, on the men's side.
I think. Were we starting with the women? Go ahead, Barry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. Let's start with the women. On the women's side, it doesn't seem like anybody outside of they're great players, but outside of the top, call it six, they can all beat each other, so it doesn't really matter where they are in the draw. But does anybody outside of the top six have a shot?
No, I just want to, at first I want to just start out by saying it's great to be back this year. We got such a great reaction to our podcast last year. So we're coming back by popular demand.
Exactly.
And it seems like our guest is already sampling the honeydews in anticipation of his arrival in New York City. As for the women, I've been watching a lot more women's tennis this year. And I agree. The top
says a lot right there, Valerie.
Yes.
That's not the way you've been the last few years.
No. I decided to give the women a second chance, and I'm glad I did. It's been very competitive. And there are some coming into the U.S. Open. This is like the most exciting women's draw we've seen in a long time. I think there's a lot of great tennis being played right now. at least between or among the 1 through 6 or 7 players. Between Goff and Iga.
Yeah. So who's in that group in no particular order here? Who are you thinking?
Well, I think Goff, Swiatek, obviously Sabalenka, Pegula's playing much better, Rybakina. And then we have sort of the surprise, I think, of Muchova, who was injured for much of 2022, really coming back strong. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens at the Open. I mean, I'm one of those people. It doesn't make so much difference for the women, but I think having, in terms of they're still playing 2 out of 3, the men go to 3 of 5, of course. But I think in terms of the women, having that extra day of rest in between will answer a lot of the scheduling questions and concerns that everybody's been having.
But it's true. I mean, if you looked at all these hard court lead-ups at a different, Goff won 2 of them, but different players really come into light every week. And some players who, not named Swiatek, who are playing phenomenal tennis. I'm with you. I worry about Rybakina. I mean, she can hit anybody off the court, but she seemed injured at least a little bit in this most recent tournament in Cincinnati. Didn't show real well up in Canada, so she's going to have to rally. Pegula, I mean, is there anybody in the women's game who gets more out of their game than Pegula? I mean, she's a great player, but she doesn't overpower anybody. She doesn't seem like the fastest, although she's really fast. But boy, she plays really well. She plays all these players terrific.
Yeah, she plays really well. I think, it's going to be great for her to be back in the United States playing in front of a home crowd, especially, a New York home crowd for her, even though she's from Buffalo. But I think that will be very helpful to her. I'm also looking at Ons Jabeur. I mean, I think she's going to be a real crowd favorite. I mean, New York loves sort of an underdog. She's sort of a wounded warrior coming in after that terrible Wimbledon final. And she could get just the lift that she needs from people in the stands, I think.
So she lost a heartbreaker, and the entire world was rooting for her. And she lost to somebody who nobody was really even thinking about, Vondrousova. How about Vondrousova for the U.S. Open? What do you think? Is she in that group?
I don't know. I'm going to reserve judgment on her. I think she got really lucky. Jabeur had 2 really tough matches coming in before that final. And again, she's coming off of an injury. I haven't seen her play very much, but maybe I'll give her an outside. There's
something about it's almost like when and Mukova's in the same camp. When people haven't seen them a lot, it's like the new thing. That Vondrousova with that lefty game of hers and very tricky. Nobody quite knew what to do with her, but since then she hasn't. People have figured out how to play her a little better. It doesn't seem like she's able to make the same impression, but she was awfully good at Wimbledon. And I'm with you on all of the competition amongst them. What about Swiatek? I mean, world number 1 and a very deserving world number 1, but on the hard court, it's a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think she's been having a lot of, I think when I talked about women's tennis last year, it's a lot more mental than I think physical. And I think she and her team are struggling a little bit. She's had a little bit of off-court back and forth with fans on Twitter or, wherever she is on the social media. And I just think that rides heavy on her. I do think of all of the top, let's say 6 or 7, that she is the most focused. And I really think she is going to, at least to herself, want to prove something here in New York. And I think that's going to make her very tough.
Yeah. I think she's terrific. And when you watch her, it's like a freight train coming down the tracks with that serve and that forehand. She's a great mover, maybe the second best after Goff. But when she can get on her forehand after a big serve and just dominate the point, you don't know what to do. The people who have beaten her, like she was beaten by Goff, and she was just beaten the week before that up in Canada by Pegula. I mean, they're able to get the ball off of her forehand, and then she's mortal. Her second serve is definitely, something people can attack.
Yeah, but her mental toughness, even when she's down, she's never really out. I don't know, whether I'm watching the score on the internet or I'm watching her live, even down like 3-5 in a tiebreaker, I'm always confident that she's going to hit the next point. I mean, in some ways, she's more capable of beating herself than other players beating her sometimes, I think.
I agree. And she's so positive. She always thinks she's going to win the match. It's true.
Yeah.
She's a very worthy champion, and I love hearing her remarks after the match. A very thoughtful player. Let's talk about Coco though for a minute. I mean, she's been the next new thing since she was 15 and entered the pros. Now she's ancient at 19. Seems like she's been
Yeah.
around forever. And I mean, 3 months ago, after losing in the first round at Wimbledon, I think everybody wrote her off. Oh, her forehand's terrible, and she's so beatable, and she's down on herself. What the heck? How did she get
What the
there?
heck? I think it's all about BG. I mean, I hate to give him so
She's only
much
been there
credit.
3 weeks.
I know, but I think look, I was one of those people who were writing her off after Wimbledon. I just thought, her performance last year at the French Open, just too much pressure on herself. And that forehand was just like off the rails at Wimbledon. And I mean, BG is an amazing coach. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit more. He and Darren Cahill, I think, two of the best, if not the best in the business, what they have done with other players. And you can see a difference in that box already. I mean, I'll come out there and say, I think it's great that her parents aren't as prominent in the stadium, or if they're even there. And I think,
she's very mature and thoughtful, and the team. I mean, she's been really well prepped for this. The Tennis Podcast had an episode that just came out about Cincinnati, and they made the point on Brad Gilbert that this is his third act at least, that he took over coaching Andre Agassi, and within 6 months, Andre won his first major. He took over Andy Murray, and within 6 months, Andy Murray won the U.S. Open. Now she's got Goff, and she just won 2 tournaments on the hard court run-up. I mean, she's right in there for the U.S. Open. It's amazing what a difference a coach can make.
Yeah,
how does he do it?
I don't know. I don't know how he does it, but if I were a parent of a young player, I mean, he would be the guy that I would go to.
Yeah.
I just think that he and Darren have, even when you watch them do commentary, the way that they can break down a game is amazing. I mean, I'll even throw kudos to Andy Roddick as of late on Tennis Channel.
Yeah.
I mean, what he sees as well. I think, those three really have great insight into how to fix a game, and let's see what she does. I mean,
it was interesting too. His comments in the last couple of rounds when she beat Swiatek, which is a major breakthrough for her, were all about not about fixing her forehand. Her forehand is still her forehand. She's stepping in a little better and hitting it more aggressively and making fewer errors. But he was just giving her belief that she's the best athlete on the court. That she said it in her remarks. She's a warrior. She said, "I'm Coco Gauff. I can win this match." And you see the belief there. It's amazing.
Yeah. And look, you can't discount coming into this major having just won Cincinnati and beating the person who had beat you like 7 out of the last 8 times. So that's an amazing thing to be working on.
Let's spend a little bit of time on a player that won the Australian this year, and she's wonderful, but scary looking. If I had to face her on the court, I don't know what I would do with Sabalenka, but she has come up a little bit short lately. What does she need to do to keep up the majors?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't watch her a lot. When I do watch her, I mean, if her serve is working, she's going to win. If her serve is a little suspect, her mind starts to wander a little bit. She lets people into the game. She has a lot to prove. I think it's great that she won the Australian. And I don't know. I mean, she could go really deep. It depends. But then again, she loses to people that she really has no business losing to. So I don't know. She's a toss-up for me.
All right. Let's go to the men's side.
Okay,
here,
but before we leave, I want to go back to one champion who is Caroline Wozniacki coming
interesting.
back.
Yeah, the comeback.
People didn't believe it, but I think she was watching people playing tennis and thinking, I can do that too, even though I just had another baby. Yeah. And so, look, I don't have
great.
any.
She looked very fit.
Yeah, she looks really good. I mean, I don't have any delusions that she's going to be in the semifinals, but she could go deep.
I was thinking the same, but I was also thinking that when you watch her, and she's playing pretty much the way she played before she left 3 years ago, that I think it shows you where the women's game has come, that these players are not only really fit as they always were, but there's some just big hitters and terrific tennis players there. I don't think she could ever have beaten the top. I mean, she was number 1 in the world, but she didn't win. She won 1 major, I think.
Right.
And she didn't have it against the big hitters. She was just so consistent. I think that the top players now are better than they were in that era.
Yeah, I think they are better. I think, they could use a little bit more variety in their games. But I'm interested to see what she can do. I'm interested to see what she can do.
And she might not be on a show court. You might be able to see her if you're walking around the grounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to the men's here. So this is kind of, I think one of the shows I was watching framed it. It's Alcaraz versus Djokovic versus the field, right? Who do you like, Alcaraz, Djokovic, or the field?
Oh, this is very tough for me, as you well know, because my guy is sitting out the rest of 2023.
Yeah.
But I think I want to say this. I think is draw dependent because I'm a big fan of Jannik Sinner, and I think his game matches up so well against Alcaraz that if Sinner can go deep, again, coached by Darren Cahill, and who's
there you go. There's the other half of the coaching story, right? Darren Cahill. Amazing
in the last 2 rounds. I guess it was the Rogers Cup. Sinner serving so much better now.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a 3 out of 5 match against Alcaraz. I mean, it was a great match at the U.S. Open last year, which Alcaraz just won by the skin of his teeth. And I think it was a 5-setter. It went so late, I can't even remember.
I think that's right. Yeah.
I don't even remember what time I got home that night, but or that morning rather. But I think against the rest of the field, I have to say that, and you and I have spoken about this. I'm really nervous about Alcaraz's conditioning, and when you say against the field, I would include in the field the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has a tendency not to, when he doesn't win that first set and he's out there, a lot of energy is expended, and his conditioning, in my opinion, is really suspect. I think we saw that yesterday in the final in Cincinnati.
It was almost 4 hours in. As Andy Roddick said, he got an hour longer than he usually gets before he cramps, but he did cramp right at the end in Cincinnati.
And so that makes me nervous. But look, all signs point to an Alcaraz-Djokovic final. I mean, I don't know.
Tennis Channel had an interesting take on it. When it was Federer against Nadal in the final, I mean, how many slams in a row did they play each other? You knew that they were going to be playing each other for a long time, and that was part of the allure of that rivalry. With these two guys, I mean, they're just passing in time. Djokovic is 36, Alcaraz is barely 20. And they're going to be with each other for a little while, maybe a couple of years, hopefully. But beyond that, the future is Alcaraz's to take if he wants it. And Djokovic, I think he's just getting a real thrill out of saying, I can hang with this guy, and this guy is definitely the future. So they're kind of defining each other in a different way.
Yeah, I wish the rest of the field, and it pains me to say this, but I wish the rest of the field was watching Novak and his love and inspiration for the game. I mean, if the rest of the field came out with only half the will to win that he comes out with, having won all of these Grand Slams, all of these Masters 1000s, I mean, every tennis match, it would be impossible to get into to watch.
I think you're spot on. I mean, the guy's passion for the game, and I've never been his biggest fan, but I mean, he's statistically the greatest of all time, and he's still going. I think that's what made that win at Wimbledon so spectacular for Alcaraz. I mean, to take on the best player of all time at his peak on his best surface and beat him in an epic 5-set match, that's a win for the ages, right?
Right. I mean, and frankly, again, I can't believe I'm saying this. I mean, that match I thought was Djokovic's, but he made 2 very uncharacteristic backhand errors in the 4th set tiebreaker. I think it was
third set
tiebreaker.
Yeah.
And I guess he was nervous for the first time in how many Grand Slam finals. But yeah, I think it's great. I also think the weather is going to affect Djokovic as well. And and ESPN and the tournament officials will be pushing as many matches of his.
Oh yeah. One more word on that, and then let's get to some of the other who are terrific players. But with Alcaraz, I mean, when he's bad, when he's beatable, it's still because he still plays like a 20-year-old. Like he just goes too much risk. He's got all these shots at his disposal, but he doesn't play the point. He's sort of the opposite of Sinner, and I would say Rune too. Rune, they're all about the same age, and they're the future. But those guys are much more strategic, maybe more cautious in the way they play. But Alcaraz, hitting drop shots, which he does amazingly under pressure, under the most pressure-filled points. That's a high-risk strategy. It works, but
Yeah.
it can fail too.
Right.
And I think that's his weakness if he has one.
Right. He doesn't hold back. I mean, he goes for the low percentage shot, even when he's about to lose a tiebreak.
Yeah.
You either love that about him or you hate that about him. To be honest with
He's
you,
got that same belief that Djokovic has, right? That he's never out of it, that he can always win.
Right.
I think he would have served underhanded in the tiebreaker in Cincinnati just because he thought he could win by doing it, and he was cramping so badly.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about the field then, because I mean Medvedev, he's number 3 in the world. Does he have a chance?
I'm wondering where the real Medvedev is. Right now, I think we're seeing Stepford Medvedev. I mean, I was seriously disappointed by his hardcourt season up to now. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he lost a lot during missing, many of the tournaments like the Wimbledon or, that he couldn't go to, or if he's distracted by, his new family or what it is. But I just don't think we're seeing the guy who won the U.S. Open, who beat Djokovic handily and well.
That's right.
He's coming into New York. He loves to play in New York. I hope that's inspiring. I love the guy, and I want to see him go deep. And if the real Medvedev shows up, that will be an issue for. I mean, I don't know for Alcaraz, because when I see him play Alcaraz, he's still working on that puzzle, I think. But he knows how to play Djokovic. So I see him as a threat on the Djokovic side.
Well, both Djokovic and Alcaraz have the ability to make good players look terrible. I mean, Djokovic just dismantled Taylor Fritz, who, by the way, is world number 9. I mean, it was like a tennis lesson in Cincinnati. And I think the same as, Tsitsipas gets killed by both of those guys. They expose his weakness. Ruud can't get through him. I look at Rune, Sinner, and then Zverev, who's sort of, let's talk about Zverev for a minute. He's ranked number 12. When he broke his ankle or whatever he did terribly to his ankle at the French Open, it was a little bit over a year ago. He was almost beating Nadal, right? He was toe to toe. That's how good he was at that moment, and he hasn't quite gotten back there yet. But he's making progress, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's making extreme progress. I mean, I never expected him to be playing as well as he has been playing. I think he needs more match play against the top 5 or 6, but I think he's playing super well. I think, I've never liked the way he played at the U.S. Open, but I think he wants to get himself back in the conversation.
Yeah.
And this is exactly the tournament that he can do it. If his serve is working, we could be talking about him in the second week.
Yeah, I think that's right. The other one that could make the second week is ranked all the way down at number 17, but it's Hurkacz.
Yeah.
He's in the mold of when Cilic won the U.S. Open. I mean, he has the ability to just take the racket out of your hand with his serve and his forehand, just hit you off the court.
Well, I mean, look, when you talk about Alcaraz versus the rest of the field, I mean, Hurkacz was 2 points away from winning. He had match points this week or last week against him in Cincinnati. I thought he played him very well. And who knows, 3 out of 5, I don't know, but he needs a little bit. And then he went down for a while in that third set, and Alcaraz was able to capitalize on that.
He needs BG, or he needs a super coach.
He needs that, or Andy Roddick, or somebody. I mean, he needs a little bit more mental toughness, but he definitely has the game when he's serving. His game is as good as anybody's. All
right, so let's we covered the draw. We didn't pick winners, but I think we got pretty close. Mm-hmm. But if I don't have your tickets in Arthur Ashe, I'd love to have your tickets in Arthur Ashe. And I'm wandering around the grounds. Who are the best players to go find because they're going to likely be on some of the outer courts? Who do you like?
Well, I mean, whether you had my tickets or not, you should be wandering the first week in any event.
Yeah.
But I think I want to see Sebastian Korda. I mean, since he hurt his wrist in Australia, he really hasn't been back. I mean, talk about, look, he's got his father helping him. He's got Andre Agassi helping him. I really think that he could be,
seems to have the highest ceiling of all the American players.
Yeah,
right?
I think
more than
so.
Fritz, more than Tiafoe. Yeah.
Yeah. I would go see, Ben Shelton. I would go see,
right.
I would go see Coric, who's playing really well. I think he gave Alcaraz, it
He
was a
did.
good game.
He did.
He's
I'd go find Chris Eubanks wherever he's playing because he's likely to be on an outer court. What a show he puts on, and
he does
man,
put
he's
on
fun.
a show. Who else would I go see?
How about Monfils? This is like the last chance you might have to see Monfils, Wawrinka, or Murray, right? They're not going to play too many more of these.
I think they're going to be, when you talk about it, I think they're going to be on Louis Armstrong, grandstand at the smallest in
maybe
terms
court
of
17.
Yeah, but maybe 17. But I really think that they will be people that will be watching. I mean, look, we didn't talk about Tiafoe. I mean, obviously he had the run of his life at the U.S. Open last year. His season hasn't been that great, but he's great to go and watch whatever court he's on because he always involves the crowd, and that's always a lot of fun. So I would go see that.
How about Dominic Thiem?
I don't know what's going to happen. He's playing a tournament this week to get in. I honestly, I wouldn't go see him because I want to remember the Dominic Thiem that I thought that one day was going to win the French Open after Rafa retired.
The most beautiful one-handed backhand. Yeah, I thought he would too.
He's a cautionary tale of overplaying. I mean, I think I think that's an issue. I would also go see, people love her or hate her, but Danielle Collins, she's fun to watch. She loves to play. I don't know. Is Shelby Rogers going to make it in? She's another one.
I haven't seen her. I don't know. She'd have to get a wild card or quali in. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
Well, Venus is going to be in there. She's always good for, first round, see what's happening. Depending on who she's up against. I mean, it'll be a good, most likely 3-set match for her.
Yeah. Couple of women's players who are, I'm sure, to be on outer courts, but are fun, or even on the practice courts. Ostapenko, who you just can't believe she hits it as hard as she does, and she's disagrees with every single automatic line call,
right?
Whether it's close or not. And then Haddad Maya, who she's so physically imposing and can really play well. I'd like to see her play.
Yeah, I mean, she's somebody who gets a good draw, Barry. She could go deep. Again, don't see her winning. Now I'm going to be completely brutal, and I think Tsitsipas should just take himself out of the main draw and play doubles with Paula Badosa, and then they can win a mixed doubles.
And we would pay money to see that match. Yeah, maybe they should. He plays doubles with his brother, and they, they'll have fun doing that too. I think he should take time off and work on his game. I mean, physically, he's so impressive, but that one-handed backhand is such a weakness, and all the good players can find it. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what else he does until he figures out how to push people off of that shot. He's not going to beat anybody in front of him.
Yeah, and I also, look, we didn't talk about Tommy Paul. I mean,
right.
Yeah, I think Tommy Paul. I mean, I love Tommy Paul. I think hopefully he comes in. He's not injured. I think for his game, he's much better with a day between matches. Mm-hmm. And look, he could go deep. I mean, I see him. It's a
tough matchup he gave Alcaraz all he could handle, and he beat him up in Canada.
Yeah, and I think I think that he, and playing with an American crowd, I think that would be great for Tommy, actually.
Yeah. Well, I know you want to mention a particular women's doubles player, so why don't
I went. Most people who know me know that I hate doubles. I was at the French Open, and I watched Taylor Townsend play doubles with Leylah Fernandez. And I just have to say, if you can go see Taylor Townsend play doubles,
whoever she plays with, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, she actually just won in Cincinnati with girl last name Parks, right?
Yeah.
And she had played with Katie McNally like the week before, I think, who was playing with Coco before she got, dumped,
right.
For the Coco focusing on the singles. But even if you hate doubles, you may actually end up liking them when you watch Taylor Townsend play doubles. I mean, I wish she can turn that into a singles game. I
don't know if she's in the singles draw, but I watched her beat. She had a really good win in the women's singles a couple of years ago that I watched her. She serve and volley on everything and terrific hands. Yeah. Amazing.
I mean, she beat Simona Halep at the U.S. Open. Yeah. Okay. And then she had a baby about 14, 15 months ago, I think maybe a little bit longer than that. And I mean, her court sense is just amazing, and she can really move, and she's not a tiny girl.
Yeah. But the fitness level, it's interesting. You know, Taylor Townsend, several players, Svitolina's another one, have come back from have come back from having babies. And I mean, you know, they're all in at least as good a shape as before and moving really well.
Better. I mean, if not better. I mean, Azarenka has always been in much better shape since she had her son many years ago. I mean, I'm looking for her. I didn't mention her in the women's draw because she's coming off an injury, and so I don't really know how fit she really is for the U.S. Open. But I think, you know, all of this is showing that, you know, you can have a tennis career after having a child or even two, and you can be really good. So I think it's inspiring for everyone. And go catch Taylor wherever she is. Yeah. I'm a big fan.
I think we might have covered it, Valerie. Anything else? Any tips for wandering around the grounds of the Open?
Oh, look for me. I mean, hopefully
I'll
be there. I mean, I'm planning on being there Labor Day weekend, and then, you know, work permitting, scooting out to see a lot of good matches.
Yeah, and go ahead.
A lot of good matches will be at night because of the new coverage. ESPN likes to have the good matches at night. So for those of you,
I just hope they don't have matches ending at 2 and 3 in the morning. It's become a real sore spot for tennis that they're doing that to the top players.
And I think that's an outgrowth of the parity, if you will, but the parity at an excellent level, so that these matches are running so long.
Why don't we close with Brad Gilbert's word of advice, which was go by the ESPN booth, tell him you're a friend of Barry and Valerie's, and see if he does a photo op with you or not.
Okay, we'll try. Maybe we'll try that together.
We're definitely doing that,
Let's
Valerie.
do it, and then we can open up our show next year with that.
Exactly. All right.
Okay. Well,
all right. Well, we'll see everybody at the Open. Thanks,
Take
Valerie.
care. Bye-bye.
Hey, before we go, I just want to make sure I say thanks to a couple of people and groups that are enormously helpful to the podcast. I want to thank Secured Finance Network for letting it all happen and sponsoring it on their website. And I also want to thank Hilco for their sponsorship of the podcast last year in this and making it all possible.
This is SFNet Presents In the Know, sponsored by Hilco Global.